Hi everyone, so I'll just give this a couple of minutes to kick in. Okay, so I've got a really serious critical story here which I'm going to tell you. It leads on from a story that I was talking about last week with a lady in Kalgoorlie that was going to be made homeless. I have been speaking to this lady on the phone for the last half hour or more, and she's given me consent to tell you her story. So I'm probably going to explode throughout this several times. I warn you, I may swear. Okay, I will try not to, but this is just getting ridiculous. So we have a lady in Kalgoorlie. She has left a very, very traumatic and physically abusive relationship. Her ex-partner cut her throat. Her 11-year-old son is traumatized from trying to get the knife out of his hand and being there and seeing it all. So throughout the system, the court system, right, this person has been court ordered. She has to live in Kalgoorlie for access for the custody. Now it's still going through court at the moment because he doesn't want to sign the divorce papers or do the property settlements. So he was charged and he went to prison. When he came out of prison, he was instructed to live at the family home. This left her and her children sleeping in a car for 6 weeks until she could raise enough money from working to be able to get a bond and a house. She did that, and then she had to sell the car in order to buy beds and furniture and stuff like that. So this lady is a New Zealand national. She has been in the country for 10 years. For those that don't know, New Zealand nationals cannot claim payments unless they've been here for 10 years. And then even then, they can only claim 6 months worth of payments. So at this time, they can't claim parenting payments. They can only claim job seeker payments. So she's on job seeker payment with 2 children, right? One of them's a baby, right? And she's on the pittance of a payment of job seeker. Not only that, she has to deal with her job agency making appointments for her every week. It's a near 2-hour walk, so therefore it's costing her $42 a week for a cab to go there and back, right, for her job search stuff. Right, this lady and her family are traumatized, absolutely traumatized. Okay, what they've been put through with the court system is absolutely horrendous. Right, she has tried 6 times to get the location order lifted because she can't even move to Perth. She can't escape her perpetrator. She can't just go into shopping in town because he might be in town. Right, so this is causing a lot of drama. She is also under the care of a clinical psychologist. Okay, she has a caseworker. She has a doctor, a GP, and a clinical psychiatrist, all working with her on the trauma. Now, the situation is that they have now put her on the cashless debit card. She has received her cashless debit card. Her payments expire on the 7th of August. However, her landlord cannot accept her being on the card and continue for her to stay in the premises. Not because he's being an arsehole, but because he's had tenants before on the Indu card who couldn't pay their rent, and it cost him money on the default fees on their mortgage, and he's not prepared to go through that again. He's made it very clear he doesn't consent for Centrelink to have his details and share them with Indu and their stakeholders ever again. So this poor lady has been trying to fight this, right? So yesterday she goes into her psychologist, right? Who gives her the letters that she needs. He's looked up everything that she needs to have and done everything right. She goes off to Centrelink. Bear in mind, it's like a 40-minute walk. She ends up spending most of the day, like 4 hours with Centrelink, stuffing this around, with a social worker who refuses to accept any of her documentation. Now, on the Indu website and on the Services Australia website, it says very clearly what is needed for a wellbeing exemption. It doesn't say that you have to have a diagnosis. Okay, so this social worker was on the phone. It got so ridiculous that she had to go to Centrelink. She sat in Centrelink for hours. The social worker wouldn't believe anything, wouldn't accept the paperwork, kept demanding that she needs a diagnosis from her psychologist, which is not true, right? Pushing for the details of the owner when it says it quite clearly on the email, he does not consent for her to give out his phone number or address details to them. Do you know what I mean? Or anything like that. And the trauma. So she goes back to her psychologist, by which time she's in such a traumatized state, he actually medicates her on the spot. Okay? He's never had to do that for a patient, but he did it. He then got on the phone. She had to go back to Centrelink with all the paperwork again to see this damn social worker. He also got on the phone with the social worker who was demanding from him, I need a diagnosis. And he's turning around and saying, no, you don't need a diagnosis as per the legislation. This lady is not applying for a disability support pension, right? All you are doing is adding more trauma to this lady's current traumatic situation, knowing that she can't move, she can't go anywhere, and once she's out on the street, she can't leave town. She can't go anywhere. She has no family support. Nobody is supporting her there, right? It's her and her 2 kids on her own. I am absolutely ropeable at the attitude of the social worker in the Centrelink office at Kalgoorlie, right? I mean, this woman was crying. You're a woman. You've got kids. Don't you understand? She was refusing to accept any of the documentation from a clinical psychologist, a psychiatrist, right, a caseworker and a GP, right, demanding a diagnosis which she's not entitled to have, right? And the clinical psychologist turned around and told her on the phone, I'm not giving you this lady's diagnosis on the grounds that you're not medically qualified and I don't have consent to reveal my patient's diagnosis. However, if you want one, I'll put down that, you know, that this process is causing my patient PTSD, of which the social worker hung up on him. You know what I mean? The social worker hung up on the qualified clinical psychologist. This is just going ridiculous. She's going back today. She has to have her medication upped, right? Now, she's got enough dramas with all of her legal problems that are going on behind the scenes with a divorce and the fact that she can't leave town. She can't get away from her abuser. There's a chance that she's going to run into him in town. Right? It was so damn bad every time they went to court. He was abusing and harassing and bullying her outside court. And yet court keeps siding with him to keep her in that town. She is a New Zealand, I would call it expat. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, she's got no support. It's not as if she could just go back to New Zealand. She cannot leave Kalgoorlie under court orders, right? Because he has his supervised 1 hour a week visit with his traumatized children, of which, you know, the poor kid is absolutely traumatized. All right. Now, it's just gone beyond a joke. This person is not financially supported properly by our government, right? And after August, she won't have an income. Ironically, I want to find this out some more because I ran across from somebody else in Seduna where a New Zealander was not claiming any benefits but only receiving family tax A and B because that's all they're eligible for, right? But that was on the card at 100%, so she had no access to any cash. So I want to confirm that, right? So this lady now has been sent her card, right? She's got the bill for her school fees. Whoa, lo and behold, 3,900 people on the cashless debit card in Kalgoorlie, and the school doesn't accept the Indu card for the school fees. Here we go again. So her school fees are $165, right? But she's only going to get $124 in her bank to support her and her 2 children tomorrow. That's it. Because she's not activating the card. She has not activated the card. Her psychologist has told her, don't activate the card. This is going to make it harder if you do, right? So she's doing everything she's putting up the fight, okay? So they keep going on. 4.5 hours yesterday, they made this woman walk backwards and forwards with a little baby in a pushchair, right? Having to feed the child in Centrelink because she couldn't go outside because she'd lose her spot, right? And then at the end of the day at 4:15, she had to say to the lady, I have to go. It's getting too cold for my little girl to be out, and we've got a 40-minute to an hour's walk to get home, right? The social worker refused to upload the documents required, right? Because she's standing on her perch saying, I need the diagnosis. She's yelling and having an argument with a clinical psychologist when she's not even a qualified medical person. And she's demanding that he disclose this woman's private medical information and her diagnosis. Right? He's trying to explain to her that this situation is causing so much more trauma on top of the trauma that she's already going through. The reason why she's seeing a clinical psychologist, a psychiatrist, has a caseworker and a GP all helping hold her together from the trauma of having her throat cut, losing her home and all of her belongings and everything else and being shipped out. Meanwhile, the perpetrator gets his job back in the mining, is protected by his boss, who pays $10,000 of his legal fees, and just to be another arsehole, he goes and claims legal aid, despite earning thousands and thousands of dollars a week in the mining industry, and because he was able to claim legal aid, she couldn't. Right? The court put her through the trauma of having to face him in court and testify against him in court when she still had bandages around her neck. They refused to let her do her testimony from another room. They re-traumatized her and caused her to have a breakdown. Right? Now, this woman is not fair-skinned, put it that way, but he is. And she feels as though she's also racially profiled. She's Māori, right? And she's feeling as though she's being racially profiled here as well. The children don't deserve this. Now, the landlord came over today, right? They've had a really good relationship. She's never missed rent. She's never been late with rent. But he's in a situation themselves where he has other properties, and due to COVID, right, other tenants have not been able to pay rent either, and it's impacting his family personally, right? He cannot accept the cashless debit card. He will not set up Centre Pay. He's been through this mill before where the last person on Indu in his property could not pay rent. It was always late. It was never ending, and it's driving his family into an area where he's worried about his own situation. At the same time, he's actually crying because he doesn't want to see them out on the street. So they will literally be on the street. She doesn't even have a bloody car to sleep in, right? And there's nowhere to go. And she's not allowed to leave the boundaries of Kalgoorlie because of the court order that's keeping her in that town, right, under view of her perpetrator, and he can do and say it and do whatever he pleases, but she can't move, right? She can't go home to New Zealand and get emergency help there for her and her children, which she would be able to go and do if she was right. She didn't have to. She's been here 10 years, right? The thing is, she's always worked. She's always worked. But at the moment, she's got a 1-year-old and an 11-year-old, right? She's now worried about not being able to pay the school fees, so that debt will accumulate. So she's going to be in all sorts of trouble. Legal fees, school fees, nowhere to live, the whole bloody kit and caboodle. This is not good enough. This is destroying someone's life for the sake of it. It really is. And I mean, the department's going, oh, all these other personal issues in the background, that's nothing to do with us. Well, put it this way. This person is under enough trauma, enough stress as it is, has gone through hell and back and nearly bloody died. Right? Tempest, yes, she does help. Any help, mate. I'll give you the details after I finish the live. If you can make contact, even if it's just for a coffee, okay? She needs somebody there. She needs somebody there, okay? This is horrendous, and this is not fair. Right, he's not paying child support. He's getting away with everything. He's got the house, he's got the cars, he's got everything. He's got not paying child support for his children because his boss is covering up everything for him, right? Making sure his job's safe, but making sure, you know, this is crap. And I'm over this. I really, really am over this. I do have consent to tell her story right now, and it's breaking my bloody heart. I'm so angry that they would even consider giving somebody in this situation the cashless debit card. They are making sure that she ends up on the street with those children, right? And this is not fair. And I have a social worker who, you know, is arguing with a clinical psychologist who is so qualified, and the social worker's not. And he's trying to say to her, you are literally putting this woman and her children on the street. But the woman refused to take the documentation, refused to upload it, and refused because she was demanding a diagnosis, because she's being fucking nosy and it's none of her goddamn business. And under the Centrelink legislation, she's not entitled to know that information. That is patient-client information, and it's private. And if the psychologist doesn't want to share it, he doesn't have to by law. Right? She is not applying for disability support pension. She is trying to apply for a well-being exemption because she is survived an attempted murder. Right? And this is only in the last 12 months. So this family is under a lot of stress. A lot of stress. Okay? To make this family sit at Centrelink for 4.5 hours yesterday, make them walk backwards and forwards, right? When they've got no transport. This is just absolutely horrendous, right? A little baby sitting in Centrelink all bloody afternoon, and she's having to feed him in public because, you know, they're pushing people off the edge. This poor lady, her doctor has never had to medicate her. When she came back from the first visit, she was such a wreck that a psychologist had to give her medication to calm her down and then go back, send her back, right? And then he got on the phone with the social worker who's playing God with this person's life and their children, right? Oh, no, I'm not uploading that. You need to present a diagnosis. I have to have a diagnosis. No, you don't. Under the legislation, you don't, right? All that her doctors are required are to provide documentation as to what the impact of this card will have on her mental health and her situation. And that's what he was providing. He knew what to write. He looked up the legislation. He knew what was needed for her, right? And in his own medical opinion, he kept telling them, this is not in the best interest of my patient. You are re-traumatizing my patient. He kept telling the woman, and you know, this poor woman's got to go back to him today, get up to medication, and then she's got to go back to Centrelink and try again. This is just absolutely, it's just, I am furious. I'm furious, and I need more card holders to come out. You guys need to start getting angry. This woman has trusted me to be able to tell her story, and hopefully I'll be able to do a Zoom with her later, and she'll do it, but she's not going to show her face, okay? But she's prepared to stand up, even in the midst of all of this, because she's fighting for her and her children, right? But she's even worried. She goes, I'm not even an Australian citizen. How can they impose this on me, right? And do this to my family, but I'm locked in a court battle and I can't leave. They've got me trapped here and I can't move. My only option will be living on the street. That's it, with no money, with $124 a fortnight to feed a 1-year-old and an 11-year-old and herself, right? There is no support person, Amber, right? It was bad enough yesterday on the phone. This social worker was arguing it out with a clinical psychologist. Absolutely. I mean, this is ridiculous. And he said, I'm not telling you anything. You're not medically qualified. And he's not. And he doesn't have consent to disclose patient doctor, and he doesn't want to disclose it. She's a survivor, you know what I mean? Yeah, she is a survivor. She's a fighter. But at the moment, this is really knocking her for six. Because as of tomorrow, she has $124 to live on till next fortnight to feed those kids. She can't pay her rent. She can't do anything, right? And she can't even pay the school fees. I'm so... She's not alone, Amanda, no. And we have got her back. You know what I mean? Okay, I have already spoken to 2 senators about this last week. This woman has got so much on her plate. It's unbelievable. And she is going to be following through with those senators. All right. Her psychologist has already followed up with the local ALP member there. She's going in to get her letters, copies of her letters again today. Because the documents have been uploaded, or... So her psychologist has spoken to Indu, and they're waiting for Centrelink to upload the documents. But the social worker's blocking it and saying, no, I want that diagnosis. How dare a social worker be screaming at a clinical psychologist, I want that diagnosis. She's not applying for a disability support pension. She's not eligible for that payment anyway. She's only eligible for job seeker, and she's only eligible for it for another 3 months, and then she's cut off. And then she'll have no money, okay? You know, this is just out of hand. I'm absolutely furious, and this needs to be out there, right? A week ago, I spoke about this, and I was very vague, and I went around all this, you know, but I've spoken to her this morning, and I've said, look, can I tell the details? She goes, yes, everybody needs to know about this, right? This is abhorrent. This is just words. This is just, oh. Can't bypass the social worker. It's got to go through the social worker at Centrelink, and she won't budge because she's demanding that diagnosis, right? She is the blocker, right? This is just disgusting. What right has she got to block this woman from applying for a wellness exemption when she's got backed up by medical professionals that have got more letters in front of their names than that damn social worker would have to spell her bloody name? You know what I mean? I'm absolutely furious with this. This is abhorrent treatment of somebody. It doesn't matter what nationality they are, but to put these children at risk, to put these children at more risk, to put this woman through more bloody trauma. Hasn't she been through enough? The fact that she's locked into that town and can't go anywhere because some judge just won't give up, and he just keep, you know, 6 court appearances denied the ability to move, right? Most people who are fleeing that type of domestic violence flee. They leave town and go elsewhere. She can't flee, all right? And very shortly, she will be sitting on the street with the children because she's got nowhere to go, no supports. And the only friends that she had were her husband's friends. And, of course, they all blamed her for everything that happened, you know, and they all turned against her when he cut her throat. You know what I mean? Of course. Right? This is the most abhorrent, traumatic. Oh. I don't know what to say. She has a VRO on her ex. He has to stay within 1 kilometre, all right, away from her and the children. But that's impossible to do if she can't even go to Woolies. She can't order Woolies online. Coles don't do deliveries for food in Kalgoorlie. School doesn't take the card for the fees. She's absolutely at a loss. She's just absolutely at a loss, right? She'll probably come in here later and read the comments. I'm not going to say her name. I'm not going to say who she is online or anything like that, right? She gave me the consent to be able to share her story, and it is horrendous that she was put through so much domestic abuse. Right, she is traumatized. She does quite obviously have PTSD, but they're making it 10 times worse. Right? You know, this is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. I mean, I've got 5 pages of information here from this lady. And they have traumatised her. The legal process, the courts there have traumatised her, right? It's not good enough. She was told by the court support, right? Her 11-year-old is traumatised. He's triggered when they go to places where they used to go as a family, right? And yet one of the support workers that was surrounding him turned around and said, told it to suck it up and he'll get over it. It's like, what? And then she said, how does an 11-year-old kid get over the fact that he's fighting his father off, trying to get the knife off of him when he's just cut his mum's throat? How does a kid get over that trauma? Where's the supports for this family? Where is the housing for this family? Why is she being put on a cashless debit card? Oh, because the minister wants to put 903 more people on it. They just need to increase their numbers, their quota. They've got to get their quota, right? It's all about money, money, money for the company. Don't care about the human damage here at all, right? We saw that with the Marcus Paul page, the lies, the absolute lies. Oh, no, it's not happening. No, we're not paying people's rents. No, that's not happening. You know, we're not driving people off a cliff. That's not happening. As you can tell, I'm so angry that they can do this. I mean, it's bad enough, the trauma of this family, right? The kid doesn't want to see the dad, but he's being forced to access, right? And then the dad doesn't turn up. He's got all the power. He's got all the money. He's got the house. He's got the job. His boss is protecting him, right? Anybody else would have been deported. Sorry, but yeah. You know, this is horrendous what's going on, and I can't believe this government is so cruel. And to have a social worker saying, I want that diagnosis, when she doesn't have the right to have it. And there's nothing in the legislation that says that it has to be provided, right? The legislation says quite clearly, right, they need a letter or letters from her medical support team explaining what it's going to do to her, what impact it's going to have on her. They don't need to know what her diagnosis is, right? And when it gets down to it, when the clinical psychologist is yelling at the social worker, you are going to put these people on the street. You know, and the heartless woman sat there while this woman cried, saying, look, you're a woman, you got kids, surely, come on. They won't let her put the documents in, right? So as of tomorrow, she has $124 a fortnight to live on until this gets sorted. Okay, and then her payments end totally, right? In August, she gets cut off. Which, I mean, she's always been a worker and she was hoping to get back to work. But it's a bit difficult when you've just been through all this trauma, had to recover from all of that physical abuse, nearly bloody died, and you've got 2 kids, you've got a little baby and you've got an 11-year-old who's also going through major trauma, and you're being put through this shit. And even the landlord is like crying because he can't help her because he can't afford to give her free rent. You know, and he's like, if they reverse this decision, he's happy for her to stay because she's never been late on rent. She's never missed a rent payment. Unlike others that have been impacted by COVID, other tenants he's got who haven't been able to pay rent, he can't cover her as much as he'd like to. He can't afford to, right? And then they're getting all up in her face yesterday, right, demanding his phone number when she's given them the email that I posted here on the page, which quite clearly says he does not consent for Centrelink, Centrepay, Indu to have his personal information again, right? But no, they kept pushing her to give it. And psychologist says to it, you're putting her under too much pressure, right? And they are. They put her under too much pressure, right? I really don't know what to do. I really, she's gone off to do what she needs to do, which is talk to certain senators, go and see a psychologist again today to get her medication up dosed. And it's like, Everybody I'm hearing that's medicated ends up having their medications quadrupled. Right? This is getting beyond cruel. And it has to stop. Thank you, Tempest. I'll pass on the details. Thanks, mate. Yeah, this just not good enough. All the crap they put you through too, Tempest, you know what I mean? They're making people homeless. I mean, Tempest, they made her homeless while she was pregnant. You know, couch surfing is okay for card holders because we don't want to let them pay rent. You know, and the crap that they're putting Mahalia through. Just bear with me for a minute. Because I've had messages coming in at the same time as I've been doing this. Right? I'm just reading some stuff here. Oh, it's alright, it's a different thing. As you can tell, this one's really stressed me out too. It really has, because I'm in Queensland. What can I do? But Tempest, and I'll ring Sylvia as well. And you guys go and have a coffee with this lady and give us some support. Yeah, I think it's going to be a protest outside Centrelink or something. Right, this woman has not activated the card. She's not going to activate the card. She shouldn't be put on the card. Right, her mental health is not stable enough for this sort of crap. She's only going to be on job seeker payments for another 3 months. So why pay into $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 for the setup fee? You know what I mean? Only to crucify her. She won't be able to pay her bills. She won't be able to pay her legal bills, right, from it. She won't be able to pay anything for it. You know what I mean? And she can't pay her rent on it. They've boxed her every which way. She's boxed by the court system. She can't leave town. She's boxed by the cashless debit card with her finances, right? And she's boxed with her housing situation. Absolutely, just boxed in. What are you going to do? You know? It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And I think we need to do something more about this. I'm going to go. I'm going to pass on some details to other people. And, yeah, Tempest, I'll get you in contact with her. Because she does need somebody around her, even if it's just for a coffee or something. You know what I mean? At the moment, her psychiatrist and her doctors and her caseworker are all working with her. But, you know, the way that she's been treated, you know, it's like, it's just, I've just got a text, and I need to go and see what that's about. So I'll come back later, guys, when I've cooled down as well, because I just, oh, look. And they don't believe us when we say that people have died from being forced onto this card. You can understand why, can't you? When they push them off a cliff. I mean, at the moment, we had one guy, he's finally got off by going through AAT, but he was sleeping in his car. We've got this lady, her children are due to be out on the street any day. Okay. Sophie, they're putting her at risk now, and her grandmother at risk of not being able to pay her mortgage. You know, ordinary people can put a lot of pressure, ring senators' offices, ring Senator Ruston's office, ring Services Australia. You know what I mean? And maybe we might get a bit more drastic. Do you know, if I could, I would go to Canberra. If I could, right now, I would get on a plane and I would go to Canberra with big signs saying Mahalia's story and a big sign with this lady's story. All right? I'm furious, and all you get is lies from the LNP, right? The crap that they responded with to the Marcus Paul show was absolutely disgusting. Of a case of we're just going to keep with our lie. We're just going to use Joseph Goebbels, you know, World War II propaganda of you keep telling the lie, and then it becomes truth, right? Meanwhile, the truth gets lost. Well, we're not going to let the truth get lost, and we're going to keep telling it. And we're going to keep shouting from the rooftops. And I'm going to encourage more and more card holders to speak up for themselves, right? Because this is not good enough. You are breaching international human rights, Article 11 here again, right? And all the other human rights breaches and the legal breaches in this country. Yes, this person is not a citizen of this country. So therefore, why is she being subject to the cashless debit card when she's not even a citizen? Because, oh, money for Indu. You know, your $10,000 or $12,000 setup, and then the $870 for this year's fees as well, or whatever it is, $800 to $2,000 worth you get per year, right? She's only on the payments for the next 3 months, right? George Mason called Ruston's office and Mahalia, and they told me it's been fixed. It hasn't been fixed. It hasn't been fixed. It took 6 weeks to get the rent fixed, and we're not sure if that's fixed for Mahalia permanently as yet. We have to wait until her next rent period comes around and see if her rent declines again. They only fixed it for 2 weeks' rent. They had her 6 weeks behind. It was only because, to the generosity of the National Homelessness Collective, that sent money to Mahalia's landlord for 4 weeks' rent to help catch up. And Mahalia put in all of her cash to catch up because they wouldn't let her catch up the rent. They ran her six weeks behind. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's a good idea, Amanda. Yeah, I might advise her to do that as well. This is not good. This is not good. I mean, if an Australian goes to New Zealand, they can get supports, right? What do I say? I've got a headache. I'd like to throttle somebody. I'm absolutely furious about that social worker who seems to think that she has the right to tell a clinical psychologist. I don't think so, Sam. Getting a little bit of a tin hat complex there, aren't they? Like a little bit of Gestapo, right? They've got all the power to take someone's freedom away from them, and they're using it a little bit too much in Kalgoorlie, imposing it on visitors, imposing it on non-citizens, right? In this situation, this woman should never have even been sent a card. And the minute that she found out, she should have been able to just walk in and go, this is what's going on, and it should have reversed the decision straight away. But no. That support worker is got to have that diagnosis. Well, she's not getting it because the clinical psychologist is not going to give it up. He's under no obligation to breach his patient-doctor confidentiality for somebody who is not even medical qualified to understand what the woman's diagnosis is, right? And he's not required under the legislation to provide it, right? So, as you can tell, I'm really angry and I need lots of people to get really angry. This is not good enough. This is not good enough. I'll be back later as I know more information, and and I'll keep you guys informed as to how she goes today at a psychologist, another appointment, and how she goes with going back to Centrelink again, because the Indu office or the staff in Centrelink are the ones taking care of everything now in Kalgoorlie. So it's not good enough. It's not. This is just disgusting. All right, people, I'm going to go, and I'm probably going to see who else I can ring. And Tempest, yeah, I'll let her know that you're going to be contacting her. Yeah, go and have a coffee or a cup of tea or whatever. George Mason says, we're angry too. What can we do that will definitely work? Raise the roof. Be loud everywhere. Right? Don't let them get away with it. Do you know what I mean? Make sure it's share. Share this video. Right? Call your local MP. Do whatever you need to do. Make a sign. Take a photograph and send it to me. Protest. Whatever you want to do, you can do. You've got the power to do it. And all those card holders out there, you've got the power to stand up. Please do it. We're right behind you. We're not going anywhere, and we'll do whatever we can, all right, to support you and empower you so you can have your voice heard. And this woman's courage is unbelievable, you know. It's unbelievable. Yeah, this woman's courage is just amazing. But she's doing it for her kids. Because she doesn't want this. She doesn't want it for Australian families either. She said this is just downright disgusting what they're doing to everybody. You know, she was telling her neighbour about it, who didn't know anything about the card. The card's been in Kalgoorlie since 2018. Yeah, the card's been there since 2018, and the neighbour didn't know anything about it, and he was absolutely horrified of what she's being put through. You know, and I said to her, you need to let him know that 3,900 other people in that region have been put through the same crap. You know, carers, like our admins in Kalgoorlie, Sylvia and her mum are both carers for disabled adults. Both disabled adults have now been put on the cashless debit card. And they're both on the cards. Do you know what I mean? So, and the result is being nominees for their adult people that they care for. They've now got 2 Indu cards each to deal with, you know. It's just not good enough, Anne Ruston. Not good enough. Not good enough at all. All of you. Keith Pitt, you should hang yourself head in shame as well. And Rick Wilson, right? And Bowler from Kalgoorlie. You brought this to Kalgoorlie for these people. This woman was working. This woman was fine. Her kids were fine. Now it's all a mess. Now you're putting them all at risk. You know, for what? Meanwhile, the perpetrator that's caused a lot of the damage here, he's fine. He's got his mining job, his thousands of dollars a week, and he's got the family home. Right? And he's even refusing to sign the divorce papers. He's refusing to do everything. And he's got the legal aid. Isn't that so kind? Whereas the person who needs the legal aid can't get it. Because he rushed in and got it first, even though he can afford to pay his own lawyer. And his boss put down $10,000 for a barrister for him. You know what I mean? His boss is covering up. She said to me, his boss needs to be audited. Because he's covering up his income so that he doesn't have to pay child support to her. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Anyway, I'm going to go. Thank you, George. I'll keep that in mind. I'll see how we go. I'd have to work out which senators and MPs to go and visit if I was to do a quick trip down there. And to really take this home because, yeah. I'm furious. This is just every day somebody is in crisis. And every day I've got pro-card trolls, my tax dollars, and it's like, oh, I haven't got time for you guys. I'm dealing with people in real crisis here, you know, real people, not people that are well off and whinging, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's crazy. So, anyway, I'll talk to you. I think somebody said we need a national protest. I'll get something together for you guys, and you guys can go out and stand in front of your MP's offices with signs or whatever, wherever. You don't have to do it as a bulk protest. Just go and do it. Take a selfie and send the photos. And just keep doing it over and over and over. And those of you that have got shirts, wear your shirt. Those who haven't, make a sign. All right? All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.